Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Playing with Purpose Masterclass. I'm very excited that you have joined me here today. And this is part of my purpose. And I really want to warmly welcome you into this class because as something that's near and dear to my heart, I didn't realize how long I've been assisting clients and people in my class with really finding their purpose. It was coined as something else like career direction or tapping into mindset and all these other things that were going on. But at the core, at the root of it, it is really about helping people to discover their person. I wanted to talk a little bit about why there is this real need for us to understand our purpose. And I'm really interested in why it's so critical now. And it's funny, when I decided that I was going to run this master class, it was really, I noticed a whole bunch of signs happening to me, around me. The word purpose kept coming up over and over again. And I really firmly believe that we are going through a giant metamorphosis. We are personally going through a metamorphosis. We are, our planet is going through a giant metamorphosis. There's a lot of systems breaking down right now. Personal systems, professional systems, belief systems. We have a lot of breakdown. And when we have breakdown, we have breakthrough. It means things we developed no longer serve where we have arrived. And that's why I feel that this right now is a crucial time for us to really discover our purpose. There are so many um, emotional benefits of understanding who you are. And it really helps us, and really what our purpose, it really helps us with our mental health. When we have a sense of purpose, when we know what purpose is, it truly becomes the navigational system for us making decisions about our personal life, about relationships we're involved with, about all those things that are going on that can influence us, whether it's a negative influence or it causes disruption in our life. I don't think anything is negative or positive. I think we have disruptions happen so that we grow and evolve. And so really understanding purpose, all the research is pointing to that it can actually support mental health. Physically, if we understand our purpose, because you know that mind, body, and spirit are all interconnected and it makes up who we are. So anything is off kilter, whether it's our emotions or whether it's our physical or whether it's our spirit. And for the purposes of today's masterclass, I'd like to just let you know that in my for the purposes and intentions of today, spirituality is about really understanding who you are. And it's about self-esteem and self-worth and all the things bring to the table as this beautiful human being are. So from a physical standpoint, what purpose is showing through the research is that we're actually, because we're emotional feeling, we can physically do more. We are being cognizant of, when we have a purpose-driven life, what we're putting into our body, how we're moving our body, how we're stretching our body, the time that we spend outside of our work, what we're choosing to do. Because when you feel better, you start to look at what's going to nourish me, as opposed to out with maybe consuming foods or spending time just sitting alone. Purpose Purpose really is, in my opinion, the foundation of well-being. And in our spirituality, if you have a very clear purpose in your life and you're navigating through life, what happens is you're using your best skill set. You're using the things that propel you forward, the thoughts, the thinking, the work, the experience, which of course, when you step into a space, people will look at you differently. They'll look at you as a person of authority. And what does that do? When you walk into a space and you have knowledge that people want to hear, it helps build and foster self-esteem and self-worth. So those are some thoughts around the benefits of understanding or knowing purpose. In my situation, I firmly believe that we are born with purpose. As a little human being, a little egg traveling through our mother's physical system and then becoming fertilized, with our partner in crime, sperm. You never thought I'd be talking about eggs and sperm on this call. But when we come together as this beautiful human, we start to grow within our mothers. I believe we already come here with intention and purpose. And so when you ask little children, or you see little children, they're very determined on what they like and what they don't like. You will probably, if you're a parent, observe special things that your children are laser focused in on, whether it's an artistic endeavor, it's a physical endeavor. You notice these things that you did not teach them. So my beliefs are that we are born with purpose. And what happens within our purpose is that we get distracted by what other people are telling us. We get distracted with, thoughts and thinking around, so my teacher says this, my parent says this, my aunt says this, my uncle says this, my friends say this, and we get taken off course from that purposeful life because, of course, we are listening to those authorities in our life who are saying things, and those happen to be your peers, professionals, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of times we get steered off course with our belief system. The second thing, or the next thing I want to talk to you, because there's several thousand, let me just backtrack. There are several thousand theories around purpose. And, it's funny because what I think might not necessarily be what another philosopher thinks. And not that I think I'm a philosopher, but that's my philosophy. So if we go to looking at my particular case study, I'll share with you what happened. So I started to look at my purpose because I was working in a job, and I know some of you on this call, it will resonate with you, but some of you are working in a job that just doesn't feel right. You feel like an outsider. You feel like you don't belong. You feel that the work no longer has meaning. And you're sitting there going, I don't understand. When I started in this, I really felt different from where I am. So what happened with me is I was tra-la-laing, took a job, and I'm sitting in this job, and I noticed that my anxiety was through the roof. I noticed that I was had a lot of anxiety, had a lot of stress, and there was some situational stuff that happened to me as well, both my parents passing away and the need to boost my income because I was taken away from my self-employment opportunity to caregive for parents, to caregive for my spouse. So all these things took me off my path, and so I was presented with an offer I couldn't refuse. So I took the job and I went, this is so not me. And so I thought there's got to be more to life. So I was in this job and I took my spare time and I thought, you know what? I'm really going to try and figure out why I can't get into this work. What is missing? And so I pulled out some archives. I took a look at what was going on, and I really figured out that I was not in a job that fueled my purpose. In fact, because I was dealing with all this illness, in fact, because I was doing, I was having all these caregiving opportunities thrown into my lap, I realized that I had gotten so far away from my purpose driven, purpose directed life that I was no longer me. So my spirit was damaged, my emotions were damaged. Physically, I wasn't taking care of myself because I was just trying to get through the day. So I really want to share with you that this is a poignant time in your life to really thoughtfully consider, what is my purpose? There's a beautiful research study here from Borum and Schutt, um, that the current research supports the role that purpose may play in protecting people against common mental health disorders. Like, think about that. This is consistent with the idea that positive life functioning is more than just the absence of ill health, and extends to proactive aspects of well being that include interacting with one's environment in ways that align to interests, values, strength, and feeling of meaningfulness. And certainly we've all been in a position where the work is meaningful. They're using our values, they're using our strengths, they're using our skill sets. We're interested in it. We do better in that type of work, with that type of thinking in that workplace, that purpose-led workplace or work for us. So my story is, yes, this is when I'm about the age of, I would say 5, because I'm remembering the outfit when I wore that outfit. And so as I started to delve into purpose and purpose-driven work, I thought, wowzers, this is a really fascinating thing. And so this is a program that I've created, this Playing with Purpose program. This is the Masterclass. So a lot of the stuff is the story of how I arrived at how important this actually is. So in that photo on your screen that's to the left, that little black and white photo, that's actually at my home or my first school. So when I started to pull out the archives of my life, when I started to dive into who I was, I learned a few things, or I was reminded of a few things. That, first of all, I've been teaching since the age of 5, and I'm not 5 anymore. So I have 57 years of teaching experience. And people are like, what? And I go, yes, 57 years. My parents bought me a blackboard in for my bedroom with some chalk. And every day, that little girl in the black and white photo on your screen was teaching. She would listen to her educator at school. She would bring that information home. She would put that up on her blackboard and she would teach her stuffed animals and toys. I had no theory. I knew nothing. My parents weren't educators. I was modeling my teachers. And I was passionate about this. And I didn't know anything about teaching. Nobody showed me anything. My parents just literally brought this thing home, this item home, and I just started to teach. I knew that I wanted, when I grew up, to be an educator. I knew it with every fiber of my being. As a little baby, when I was 2, before I was 2, my brother was born. And I recall vague memories of me feeding him, of me teaching him, of me showing him things, of me reading to him. There were all these things. I was born to be an educator. So when I started to look at my archives, my report cards, my things, paperwork that I had kept, thank you notes. Starting from when I was 13 and I was working as an assistant in a preschool as a volunteer. Everything I did was founded in working with children, working with infants, working with toddlers, working with school age children to give them information and content. Everything. I looked at my what I had saved from university. It was all education based. And what I realized when I did the first section, the dive in section of my Playing with Purpose, is if I am not teaching, I'm not living. And what a profound kind of thought is that's like I was like blown away. I knew I wanted to teach, but I didn't know to what extent. The other thing that flew right into my face was my spirituality. I knew that I had exceptional intuition, but I had forgotten about it. I know how painfully shy I was as a child. In fact, I might have been diagnosed if it was it were in today's situation in school. I probably would have been diagnosed with selective mutism, and I probably would have been diagnosed with high anxiety. I found it overwhelming to be in school surrounded by all these energies. And what I did know is I could feel how people's emotions, what they were feeling. I knew who was sad. I knew who was okay. I knew who needed help. And for me, I didn't know that that was a skill set. What I recognize is teaching and spirituality are so interconnected and intertwined in my life. And probably if you survey educators out there, you would find how profoundly sensitive and intuitive they are within their classrooms. So, what that did for me is it helped me to make decisions. And so that spirituality was give people their messages when I receive them. So when I'm working with clients one on one and I get messages, I share that information. And I know too, so of all that, the teaching and the spirituality, which bring me to my point today or my place today, is that I am here. I want you to be challenged with with content and information that is presented to you. I want it to shift you almost like a when you go to the chiropractor and you have a chiropractic adjustment. I want it to shift you in the most magnificent ways. I know there's more to everybody on this call today than they ever thought or considered. So that's a little bit about me. So let's talk about your story. And I'm hoping that everybody brought a pen or something to write with. But if not, I'm going to send the recording out to you. I want you for a moment just to close your eyes. I want you to think about you for a moment. I want you to go back in history, back in time. And sometimes you can close your eyes and think about this, but I want you to go back in time to a point in your life. It could be a job that you had, a career, an experience where you felt like you were in your zone of genius. I want you to hold that thought. You were in your zone of genius, that place where people loved what you were saying. You were holding them, you were capturing their attention with information or thoughts or the beautiful work that you were doing. It could have been yesterday, it could have been 10 years ago, it could have been 35 years ago. I want you to travel back in time. And I want you to think about where you were. What was that space? I want you to think about what you were doing. What were you doing in that beautiful space? I want you to think about your audience. Who is listening to you? Who's paying attention to you? And I want you to consider what your messaging was for this group. What was your messaging for this group? And lastly, I want you to think about the feelings that came with this. What were the emotions? What were those beautiful emotions? How were you feeling when you were imparting this information to that specific audience? And I want you to think about what people said to you after. What did they say to you after? And I want you to hold that image in your mind, in your imagination. And I want you to know that at any time when you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the day-to-day life, you can go back and visit that beautiful visualization. So open your eyes if your eyes are closed. And what I want you to think about is there's your standing point. There's your jumping off point. Because during that time where you felt you were in your zone of genius, where you knew that what people were saying to you was like, this is who you are. It could have been you were telling jokes to people. It could have been that you were doing like what I was doing. You were sharing information with people. It could have been you were swimming and the coach said to you, oh my gosh, you are like such a great swimmer. You have so much. And so I want you to consider that because as you go back through history, as you think about the patterns in your life, you're going to see that with every experience that's like this, that there are definite patterns from your childhood right up to your adulthood. There were opportunities in your career, in as a volunteer. There were opportunities that actually people were like, holy doodle, you are just magical. And we need to be reminded of our magical, beautiful selves in this time because we are being distracted by a lot of stuff right now. A lot of negativity is happening around us. So it's important that we dive into who we are. What are some of the things in your personal life? Like, were you the person that assembled all the friends to come together and have a beautiful meal? And people were just saying, this is the most wonderful meal. It was the most beautiful conversations. Whatever experience that was. And I want you to think about the similar situations that gave you the feeling, because that's now whatever emotion and whatever feeling came through for you, that is your measuring stick moving forward on whether an opportunity is right for you or not. And it's amazing once you figure out your purpose, positions, career moves, people will be beautifully deposited and flow into your life. Because this is what happened when I started to work on my purpose. All of a sudden, 3 opportunities came in, and I had quit my job without any financial stuff. Like, so I started this in November, quit my job in December, and the opportunities just kept flowing and flowing and flowing. So you get to decide now what's your measuring stick? What's your emotional, physical, spiritual measuring stick for when something feels right for you that is contributing to your purpose? The second thing I want you to think about is where you are, because if you understand where you are, so if you're considering change, this is a beautiful place to start your purpose. If you're ready for change, This is a beautiful place to start finding your purpose. Or if you're in the middle of change and you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know which way to turn, this is the most beautiful time for you to really focus in on your purpose. And when I ask you what's your core thought, the first thing that pops into your mind as your core word, your core thought, that's the thing that's going to propel you forward, and where I would strongly encourage you to start to do some research. It could be a core thought, could be, I want to feel the way that I felt during that experience. There's your core thought. It's an emotion. It could be, I want to be surrounded by the people that were in that experience. Again, I'm looking for community that supports that. So, whatever core thought just pops into your mind based on the pattern or based on the experiential meditation I just took you through, that's going to be your core thought moving forward. So here's the next phase. I love this little girl. Look at her. She's focusing in. She's at the edge of a pool. She is ready to dive in. She is going in and her legs are wide open. That shows me a girl who is, I believe it's a girl, but it shows me that she is ready to take that giant plunge. She is ready to, because she's wide open. If you could do me a favor right now, I want you to take your arms and I want you to hold them tightly in front of you. Okay, and I want you to notice how you're feeling, because that's kind of that protection mode that so many of us are in. And now let's follow that girl, that little girl there, diving in by doing the magical arms. Hold your arms out, like pretend you're that magical, like that little girl in the red bathing suit, and notice the difference. Notice how your chest is open, your heart is open, your throat is open. You're ready to like jump into the next phase of being. That's how I want you to approach looking at your purpose. So when we start to dive in, the first thing I want you to do is to collect artifacts. I want you to do a research project on you. So many of us on this call have done research projects, and it's so interesting that we can collect all the information. We have a thesis, we have a theory, and then we do our introductory statement about what we want, and then we find all the evidence-based research, and then we come out with the conclusion to prove what we were trying to divulge in our hypothesis or a thesis. I want you to do the same thing for you. And so what I want you to do is to start going through basements, attics, parents' households, any artifacts that you can find from childhood to adulthood. If you don't have any of those artifacts, start collecting stuff now. I'll say testimonials, thank you notes, report cards, yearbooks with people wrote notes in about you. There are so many clues in there. The funniest thing is to reread my yearbooks, because there's some beautiful stuff in there, funny. And so that's something that's really important to me, is a sense of humor. I love to make people laugh. Is it my purpose? My mom always thought I should be a stand-up comedian, but it's not my purpose. But I use humor as part of my purpose. When I'm speaking, when I'm teaching, I use humor. This is a very serious subject. Well, it's not serious, but it's near and dear to my heart. So I'm not going to be cracking jokes during this. If you were in my program and we do the live programming and we talk about it, then yes, sense of humor is in there. But for the purposes of this class, it's just to introduce you to the idea of how important purpose is. So I want you to look at your career and your volunteer work. Look at your the artifacts from your childhood to adulthood. Look into your personal life. Interview friends. Find out what they're thinking. Um, about what's going on with all of this. Oh, sorry, I went through that too fast. Okay, and then again, using your navigation system, your internal navigation system, decipher what feels right. Put that in a pile over here. And I want you to think about, too, it's really important as you dive in, who are the right people in your life? And again, are you considering a change in the people from your life, like taking them out, moving them over there? Because the research is showing that you really need one or two really great friends. You don't need 463,000. You have sort of that inner sanctum couple of friends, and then you have the next layer, and then you have the next layer. So we have friends, but there are some that maybe need to be ejected from your circles. Are you considering a change in friends? Are you ready to change in friends, or are you in the midst of being in changing your friendships or your friend group? Because what we want to do is, as we shift and evolve to living a purpose-led life, we are going to get a lot of naysayers, and then you're going to find new people who are part of your community. And community is where it's at when it comes to understanding purpose. And I know a lot of people on this call who've gone through a real transformation and made big, giant, changes in their personal and professional lives. And they lost people that no longer resonated with their purpose, but they brought in all these new, beautiful souls who support who they are, mind, body, spirit, and purpose. I love this image. This is me in my favorite place. This is me at Sidra Bean, which is, I'm from Canada. This is in a community called Burlington in the province of Ontario. And I run conferences here. I've done workshops here. And it is one of my favorite places to teach and to do magical stuff. And my friend who's an educator, who's retired from teaching and doing some more beautiful work, she took this photo. And it really is, I believe in play. Adult play is so important in really igniting purpose. When we are playing, when we are being playful, when we are out of our workspace and we are off our devices and we are out in the forest, or we're at the beach, or we're wherever we are, or we're hanging out with grandchildren, children, whatever we're doing, play is so important. It is so important in childhood, in early childhood, because it helps to build children's brains. It gets them to think critically. It gets them to have a beautiful mindset about anything is possible. It takes them outside of that typical structure of the classroom to be able to freely express who they are. That's kids. The exact same results happen when adults play. There's a big craze right now called pickleball, and I know everybody and his or her brother or sister are playing pickleball. And why? It's because it helps people get away from the everyday life. It challenges thought and thinking. There's a lot of rules and regulations in pickleball. I don't play it, but my friends do. And it is a place where you can let go of all things. You can physically, you're physically doing a physical activity, and it brings people joy. It brings people a new community, which supports mental health. It challenges your social skills because you're meeting new people. So that's just pickleball. but you could do it with crafts. You could do it with knitting circles. There's a lot of knitting circles, a lot of crocheting circles. There's a lot of art classes. There's a lot of things. There's forest activities and conferences outside. It is really important that while we're searching for our purpose, we incorporate play, because it's during those playful situations where we're not overthinking that the beautiful thoughts will come into our mind saying, you need to look at this. So our intuition will fuel us. And so I always take a journal with me everywhere I go so I can document things. In fact, my journal's sitting open right now. I was getting ready to journal before this class. So it's really important that we inject play. And it's what is it? All work and no play make Jack a dull boy. I forget what the saying is for that. I don't know who Jack is, but anyway, it is so important that we play. I want you to think about injecting play into your everyday. I don't know what that's going to look like for you because it's going to be individual. So really think about that. And here's some types of play for you to look at. Quiet play. So doing puzzles, reading, journaling. And when I say reading, it's not self-help books. It's like fiction. Maybe it's children's books. I'm rereading The Secret Garden right now. And the reason I'm doing that is because I love gardens. This was my childhood favorite book. My mom found the edition that was in our public library. So the artwork is familiar to me. Every year I read that book because I go into another zone. My imagination just goes wild. I can picture the gardens. I can picture each of the characters. It's really important that we disconnect. And TV is not really disconnection. We're still connected to a device. So I'm talking about just using your imagination. Social activities, hobbies, book clubs, and again, not volunteering to do work at something. I mean actual social clubs. Maybe you have a supper club. Those were coming back for a while, post-pandemic supper clubs. And so it's, inviting friends over and you go to different places and you just socialize. And then some physical activities. So I mentioned pickleball, tennis, badminton, leagues at the local YMCA, and really looking at how to incorporate play, because what's going to happen is the last line on that slide is what messages are presented to you during play. Really important. Now, everything post this masterclass has shifted for you. So you've had a vision. You're thinking now about, okay, what people do I want to pull in here? What communities, what playful activities, kind of what's my core thought? We've got all this information, all this content swirling around in our brains. This is where the magic is going to happen. And I always say to people, it's always two. And people are like, what do you mean it's always two? It's 2 minutes, it's 2 hours, it's 2 days, it's 2 weeks, it's 2 months. You are going to start to see messages relating to the visualization you had in that little tiny meditation. So when I figured out that I wanted to do this work around purpose, honest to goodness, let me share with you what happened. I happened to turn on the radio. I typically don't listen to the radio. And sure enough, somebody was on the radio talking about purpose. Come on. I was on Instagram and Maria Shriver was interviewing a professor who was talking about the fact that in the 60s and 70s, when graduates left university and college, their number one thought was, what's my purpose? Now, when students leave university and college and they're graduating, They are thinking about, I need to get a job because their anxiety and stress levels are so high. And he said, we need to get back to understanding purpose so we can get those careers that actually support who we are from a well being standpoint. Seriously, I saw a billboard that said, are you living your purpose? This was all in the like in the like within 2 days of me thinking about purpose. The last thing that just happened recently is the Canadian Mint has put out a coin this year for people to purchase, and I kid you not, it's the Tree of Life, and it says on it, what does it say? Roots of Purpose. I kid you not. So I heard radio, I saw social media, I saw billboards, I saw, video, I saw, like, it was all over the place. You are going to notice the same thing. And so the other thing that you are going to think about is now you're going to make some noise, you're going to notice some feelings in I'm going to say in your heart, in your stomach. You're going to have a physical reaction to situations in the workplace. What feels right, what doesn't. It goes back to, what do you feel emotionally? You're going to notice that social groups feel old. Social groups don't resonate with you anymore. And you're going to notice that people are really trying you. They're trying your patience. You're going to have no patience for what's going on because you've opened yourself up to purpose-filled living and life. And when I was working in the JOB, I literally went, I can't work here. This is not supporting any aspect of me. It is giving me income. That's it. But it is literally killing my spirit because I am a big thinker. I see the gaps. I know how to fix things, but nobody in my company at the time, in that company, I don't mean my company, but in that company would listen to anything I had to say because they were stuck. I can't work in an environment where people are stuck. And it was gray and it was sad and it was depressing. And as you're looking at me with my plants around me, yes, we had plants in the office. It is not gray. It's a soft blue. I have artwork. I have toys. I have everything in my space that serves me. And so I'm so glad I left the JOB. So reach out if you're leaving the JOB. And anything you try in the realm of play, that is something that you are, you'll notice that it's things are different. What used to resonate with you no longer resonates with you. And so now that's a time for you to think about, well, where do I want to go to play? So you're going to notice the ahas, and then you're going to go tra-la-la, because that's my favorite thing to say is tra-la-la. There's a bit of humor for you today. So there are some offers, and I'm noticing that this slide is antiquated. So the thing that I want you to think about right now is how I can help you. So yes, I have spiritual readings if that's something that you're interested in. I have a 2-hour workshop called Dive In. I've actually taken that and put it into a program. And I think that because everything is shifting and evolving so quickly for me, that if you're interested in talking to me further, I want you to just reach out. And you can do that by, in a myriad of ways that can support you. So I want you to take note. I want you to really think about how I can support you on this purpose led life. I'm so excited for you, and I want to just send you off into the universe thinking about your purpose led life. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and I will talk to you in a very short period of time.